Alright, so I am going to take a civilian character and I am going to take their skin and put it onto a Marine. The first thing you can do is you can go ahead into Blender and we're going to find the model that we're looking for. Then what we're going to do is we're going to remove everything except the main model that we want. And once we're done with this, what we're going to do is we're going to export it as a wavefront OBJ file. Next, what we're going to do is in 3ds Max 9, we're going to go over to the Utilities tab, click Max Script, and then you'll see Alamo Object Importer. And we're going to select the version 1, and then we're going to click Import Alamo Object, and we're going to find the Marine file. So you can find the Marine file in the Projects folder with all the other stuff that you put in there. So we have Invasion, Art, Models, and then we know that it starts with MI for Military Infantry as the first two letters. So click Open. Now the next thing that we're going to want to do is we need to remove this, hide some of the stuff here, the collision box and the boundary box. So you can go up here and you can click on the layer manager, and then we're just going to scroll down and we're going to click the little binoculars on the column main and the boundary box. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to retrieve this rifle. We want this rifle to be attached to the person. So we're going to remove everything that's related to the Marine, but just keep the rifle. And the way we can do that is we can hide all of this stuff, except for what we really want. And then we can click on the model, and we're going to go over to Modify. We're going to go to Editable Mesh. You're going to click this, click Yes. And now you should be able to edit this similarly to something like Blender. So we click it again, we have access to the vertices, the faces, polygons, whatever you want. So what we're going to do is we're just going to highlight some of this stuff and we're going to delete it. You can also go over to the Display tab up here, and then you can click Bone Object, so that way we hide all of the bones. So now the gun is completely isolated. Now I know for a fact that these dazzles, these big green boxes right here, are actually responsible for some of the lighting effects, like the little light on the backpack and on the front of them. This is the light for the flashlight. And although we can keep the dazzles here, we probably want to detach them from this top bit. So what we can do is we can just highlight and delete those. Okay, so now we're going to want to import our man. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, and then go to Import, and then you're going to go to Downloads, and then you need to make sure that you have OBJ selected, since that was the file type. Click on Man, and then Open. Click OK, click OK, and now you have the person in here. Now, under normal circumstances, you would need to take this and scale it correctly with the model. But since this is already a human model and it's consistent with all the other human models, we're not going to have to do that. But in case you actually do have to scale your model correctly, it's recommended to look at things through the wireframe view, and you would want to bring one of your previous layers back so you can make a comparison. And assuming that your character was out here, basically you'd want to set him at a coordinate of 0, 0. And then up here, you'd want to go to the Uniform Scale option, and then you can basically shrink and grow your model to the correct proportion so it lines up. But again, in this case, he's already in the correct position, he's already at the correct scale, so we don't have to change anything. Now what we're going to have to do is we want the textures to show up on the person. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the object and we're going to go to the Material Editor tab right here. But what you're going to want is your DirectX shader. So you're going to go into here, go to DirectX shader, and you're going to just click OK. And in here, you're going to want to select the correct type of shader for the model. So where we can find that is you're going to go back to your project file. So you have Windows, Projects, Invasion, Art, Shaders, and in here you're going to find Skimp and in here you're going to find Skin Bump Colorize. And what that's going to do is it's going to use the default type of texturing that's used on most models. And again, you have the base texture and you have the normal texture. Normal texture is the bump map, the base map is the regular texture, so you're going to go ahead and find those. And here's a good tip for finding those textures if you don't exactly know where they are. So if you import your allo file and you head over to the shading tab and then you click on your model in here, make sure that you're in object mode, click on the model, and you go over to this node over here and click on that. You can see all of the different textures that are used. So we know that it's WHNAman00.DDS and WHNAman00 bump. So we can type that in to find it. The word like that. Assuming that you know that the file is in there. We can do the same thing here. We can grab the bump map. We can type that in, open, and now we have the location for the texture and the bump map for the texture. And what we do is we're just going to take this and drag and drop it onto our model. And that is going to apply the correct textures for the character. So next, we're going to need to add the bones. So let's go ahead and redisplay these so we can see them. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on our model and we're going to go over to the Modify tab. You're going to go into the modifier list and you're going to scroll down and select Skin. Once you have Skin selected, we're going to scroll down and go into the Advanced Parameters, and we're going to set the bone effect limit to 1. So the reason we're doing this is because of the way the Empire at War and Universe at War engines work. Basically, you're only allowed to have one bone associated with each face. You can't have multiple bones attached to each face on the model. So when you're painting over this and you're making it to where the bones are connected to different parts of the rig, you want to make sure that each bone is separate. It's connected to its own individual things. Once we've done that, we're going to add all of our bones. So in here, you want to make sure that you add bones that are relevant to the actual character moving. You don't want the dazzles, we don't need the backpack, but we will want things like the biceps. So when you select these, you're going to hold Control so you can select individual ones. But we don't need the dazzles, we don't need the backpack. We will want stuff like the biceps, calves, chest, arms. I don't think the fingers actually moved in the original model, so we're going to skip those and we're just going to select the hand. You don't need the gun. You will want the head, you probably won't want the helmet, the neck, the pelvis, thighs, and then everything else should be good. So these are the bones that you're going to want for your character. So we're going to select. And now all those bones should be applied to the model. However, if you play the animation, it's going to look really wonky. And that's because it distributes those bones evenly. And we're going to have to fix that. So we're going to go to Edit Envelopes, and we're going to click the checkbox on Vertices, and you also want to make sure that the Paint Blend Weights is unchecked. This should not be checked. We do not want the weights to be blended. So there are two methods in which you're able to edit and fix the mesh so that the bones are connected to the correct stuff, and that would be through the weight table and the paint weights options. So what you can do is you're going to go and click Edit Envelopes, make sure Vertices is selected, but make sure that Paint Blend Weights is unchecked because we don't want that to be the case. And what we can do is let's click the Weights table, and we're going to go to All Vertices, and we're just going to drag and highlight this area right here because we know that this is part of the head. And what we can do to associate this with the head is we're going to go to Selected Vertices, and we're going to scroll through here until we find head at the top because that's the bone associated with it. And then we're going to Control All to grab all of these. You're going to go over to this column, you're going to hold Control, and you're going to right click. And what that's going to do is all of those faces that you selected get connected to the head as the bone. And you can do that for many different sections on the model. And the other method that you have to go through this is you can use the paint option, the paint weights, but you're going to want to click on the three dots here, and these are the parameters for the selection tool. So this will probably be set to 10 by default. And what that's going to do is it's going to make your selection really big, and you don't want that. So you're going to want to lower this to something a little more reasonable, something small, something decent. And what you do is you select the bone in this list here that you want to associate it with. So you can use the arrow keys to scroll through these. So let's say that right here, we know that this is supposed to be part of the chest. So what we can do is we can click the chest bone, and we can also go display and hide the bones again because that makes things easier to select. But Edit Envelopes, Weight Paint, and while we have the chest active, you just hold left click around that area, around these bones, and each one of the vertices that is selected gets associated with that bone. So we're basically telling it, yeah, all of this part of the mesh is part of the chest bone. And that's basically the process you have to go through until the mesh starts to look right. And this can be a little bit tedious. One thing that you could do is you could go back to the default position, frame 0, and we could just purposefully go to the weights table and select different parts of the mesh and get that connected. So let's say that we know that this part right here, we know that that's part of the leg. So we can go to select, and we know that this is the right leg, sorry, the left leg. We can select left thigh, Control All, Control right click, and we'll just do that for different sections of the model. But generally speaking, you're going to want to go into the paint weights section, and you're going to select individual bones and paint over areas that are supposed to belong to them. Alright, also, this is future me giving a couple tips and tricks on how to make this process a bit easier. So basically right here under select, you have all these different tools available for you being able to select different vertices on the model. For example, right now, if I don't have backface coal vertices selected, if I highlight a section of the model, it's going to highlight not only the vertices in the front, but it's also going to highlight the vertices in the back. And if I check this, then whenever I highlight this, it's only going to grab the ones that are visible to the camera, but it doesn't highlight any of the vertices in the back. Furthermore, if you do something like press select element, this is for selecting any and all vertices that are connected to the same mesh or like the same object. So for example, you might have something like a tank, and that tank has a barrel, or it has a vent, or it has things that are not fully attached completely, and then you can just select one of those vertices and then everything on there gets selected with it. So like, as you can tell, the pants are like it's a single object, and you can grab all of that. Or perhaps you wanted to grab like this fanny pack here. You would be able to do that, and it would select this whole object, or at least everything that is connected to that object. So both of those can be useful tools. Another thing that can help you is the F3 key and the F4 key. F4 can actually show you a wireframe highlight of what exactly the character looks like, but also F3 can remove the faces and just show you the wireframe, which can sometimes help you out when trying to find all of those vertices and the things that you need to select. Furthermore, in terms of like selecting those vertices, if you hold Control and left click, you can click individual vertices and add them to each other. So basically, like if you wanted to select all these vertices in a ring, you can do that, okay? But also, if you hold Alt instead of Control and you click on these, or you highlight them, then it removes them. It might not look like it because you have to hold the middle mouse button and move the scene in order for that to change. That's just some sort of bug with the software running on Windows 11. But that's how you can remove and add vertices. But yeah, you can. You don't just have to click on them. You can drag this and you can grab a whole section and add or subtract. And that's basically how you can select individual sections and not just have to use the weight paint tool and scribble all over this. Like if you're wanting to use the weight table and convert that over. But another thing right here is you have these different buttons here. And I believe ring and loop would have to do with selecting the vertices within a ring or a section or just something connected. But what I can tell you is shrink and grow. What those do is if you press grow right here, it's going to grab the surrounding vertices. So you can do that, grow, 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 and it just keeps on expanding. But also, it goes the same way for shrink. So if you had this and you press shrink, that's going to do the opposite. So you have grow, and then you have shrink. So that's just a couple tips for being able to select the stuff that you want. And you can also see that when we are in wireframe view from pressing F3, you're actually able to see everything that is connected to the individual vertices, like what the bone is connected to. And that can be really nice. And another tip is assuming it's like, well, I have all these bones here, but I don't know what they're supposed to be connected to. One thing you can do is open up another instance of 3ds Max with perhaps your reference. So for example, this is our Marine character, and we only have this LOD available for us to see, but we can go ahead and click on this and go to Edit Envelopes, F3, like that, and then we can go back and forth and compare what parts of the model are connected to what bone. So when we're able to say, okay, so that is connected to foot L, and this is connected to the chest. What parts are the head connected to? This is what's connected to the head. Ah, I see now. Basically, when you do all of that, it gives you the ability to see exactly what parts of the mesh are supposed to be connected to those bones, and allow you to connect everything with more precision and more knowledge, knowing exactly what that is supposed to be connected to. But yeah, those are my generalized tips and tricks for connecting the bones and making it so that the bones are connected to the correct parts of the mesh when you're trying to weight paint this and make sure that every part of the skin is connected to the bones correctly. Alright, so now that everything is looking good and all of the vertices are lining up with the bones, we can go ahead and export this. But to export this, you're just going to go to File and then Export. You're going to put this in as an ALO file. You're going to put in your ALO name, make sure to include the extension at the end, save, yes, and then it will export all of your ALO and ALA files in here. Now we can go ahead and test this. So to test this, I'm going to go over to a mod that I have. And we're going to put this in the models section. And right now I have it replacing the original Marine, so we'll just see if that works in game. All right,
keep it
and
tight.
as you can tell,
Let's go
we
get our
replaced
planet
all
back.
of the Marines
Watch
with
your
the
backs.
Batman kit.
Go, go, go!
Help!
You take them out.
Still don't know why they won't shoot, though. That's kind of a problem. Okay, so it turns out that I have been able to fix the problem. The issue was that whenever you would import the Marine file, the muzzle bone wouldn't exist. This bone right here has to be here with this naming convention in order for the projectile to have a spawn location. But the problem is that the bone simply didn't exist. So whenever you would try to run this, and whenever you would export the model, the bone simply wasn't there, and therefore it wouldn't shoot. So we can go back and fix this. This is what we're going to do. What you need to do is, let's go to our side view panel right here, and you're going to go into this tab underneath Create. You're going to go to the Systems tab, you're going to click Bones, and you're going to create a bone. You're going to drag it from left to right, okay? So like this. And then you'll want to create another one. Just right click, and then it will unselect, and then you can delete that. And now we have a bone. So if we go into here, let's resize this bone and make it look better. So from what I know, what I remember, you want this facing the opposite direction of like X. So in this little diagram here, that's the direction you want your projectile to be facing. So X needs to be facing the opposite direction of whichever direction it's going to shoot. That's where it's going to shoot. But you're going to take this bone and you're going to rename it to muzzle A00 exactly. 2 Z's, sorry. Which you can see in here. Muzzle A00. And once you do that, we can change its rotation. So we'll go in here and we'll make sure that the rotation is straight, not like that, it's 180. And we'll press this so we can scale it down, like so. Then we're going to move it, and we'll move it across the x-axis. You might want to move it across the Y as well so it lines up with the barrel. Perfect. That's going to be the spawn location of your projectile. But in order for this to actually work with your animation, you need to link the bone to the animation. And the way you do that is you're going to go into the schematic open view, and over here you should have your muzzle A, and we want to connect it to the gun. So this is the gun bone. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this down here, and you're going to click Connect, So this is the connect button, and then you're going to hold left click and drag it onto gun. And that's going to make it to where the muzzle is connected to the gun bone. Do that. We can export this. And this is inside of the mod location, so we'll export it as the armed Fat Man file. And then if we go back into the game, then our character should be able to shoot.
Roger, Com.
Alright, now another thing that I am noticing that might need to be fixed is the gun is still associated with a high detail mod model.
Marines reporting.
So it's
Watch your
disappearing
backs.
unless you get up close to it. That is something we can easily fix, but
We'll take them out.
shoot. So, in order to fix the LOD model issue, this is simply because we use the highest resolution version of the gun. So, in order to fix that, we can go back to our model. You need to go back to your layers, and you need to rename this. So, you're going to go to Object Properties, and you're going to get rid of LOD. So, we'll rename it to something like Gun or Rifle. And also, it is important to make sure that you make your bounding box visible and your collision main visible as well, because you'll want your units to collide with each other and to avoid each other and whatever else. So, that should be good. Let's see if that makes the gun not disappear when you go far away.
Get back! Get these civvies out
So,
of here!
as you can see, by removing that extension in the name of the model, we've made it to where it's no longer
Roger,
a
Com.
mod model.
All right, men. Now
So
keep it tight.
you can zoom in,
Let's go get
you
our
can
planet
zoom
back.
out. It's staying the exact same
Marines reporting.
no matter where you are on the scene.
Go, go, go! We'll take them out. Roger.